Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers.
We are at 2 weeks of dry camp, two consecutive weeks of dry camping. And this is our second trip, boondocking or dry camping. And so we've had, I would say, much improved.
Yes.
We've learned a lot. And so our first trip was just getting out there and doing it, which is where you got to start.
Yes.
But this one we have learned some more, and so we want to just kind of talk to you a little bit about our water, electricity, and then just some things that we've learned along the way. So, getting water. Let's start with that.
In the campgrounds where we've stayed along the trace, there has been water at all of them.
The first one, the Rocky Springs, it was hard to find.
Yes.
You kind of had to know where that was. But we had actually started at the Natchez Visitor Center, and
there was water there.
There was potable water there. There was a dump station available. We had 20 amp service, so technically we weren't without anything that night, but we didn't have any water hookups. We didn't have any sewer hookups, but they were available there.
And we took advantage of
that 20 amp
water and getting the
final dump on the tanks and everything. But as we've gone over the last couple of weeks, we have filled up our water tanks before we got started on that loop, and then we've had to top off our fresh water tank a couple of times in between being places where we could fill it up. We do not look forward to trying to lift a 5-gallon thing of water. That's not going to be something that would be doable for us. We have a lot of jugs, gallon jugs that we used to carry the dogs' water when we got started on the trip. We have a couple of these things. They're very inexpensive.
And loud.
And very loud. They do not act, but you can turn it. For us, our fresh water, if we just have a funnel, half of it's going to drip out. But this, you can kind of turn it to whatever angle you need it to be. And it does not screw down on the lid, but you push it down. And what I have found is actually once I get this turned and it's going in there, if I lift this just a little bit to vent, it empties a whole lot faster.
Yes.
You're going to lose a few drops with each gallon, but this, I'm going to put this back together. It takes very little space to store, and it's really inexpensive, so if you can get these at Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, anywhere like that, they're near the funnels. But it's been great. We've used that a lot to supplement, to top off our fresh water tanks.
And it's been easy.
It's been easy because we can just fill these, slip them in the back of the truck, and then come and pour those in between those big fill-ups. And then conservation is the key. We use I'm going to point that direction because the restroom's right down there. We're somewhere where they're, if we're stopped somewhere in some sort of a campground, we're going to use the facilities there.
Yes.
As we're driving between campgrounds, we're going to stop at the
rest areas,
things like that. Middle of the night, we'll use ours. But that helps to conserve. And then
our showers.
We have done a lot of, I think they're called Navy showers, where you turn the water on, get wet, turn it off, lather up completely, and then turn the water on to rinse off. Those use very little water.
Yes.
And then between those, we've done kind of what our mother would call a sponge bath, and baby wipes or whatever, dry shampoo, just to kind of get bug spray off or freshen up when you don't really need a complete shower. And so I will say that when we got to the Smokies, we had been a week of dry camping, and we'd gotten by fine.
We'd had showers, but they'd been quick.
And so first thing we did was we went over and we'd empty our tanks before we got there. So really we just went over and made a final dump on those tanks, filled up with fresh water, got our campsite, backed in, stayed hitched, and we both took just really long, hot showers, as long as we wanted.
Yes.
And as hot as we wanted. then immediately went back to the dump station, dumped all of that, topped off our freshwater tank, and then
We were ready to go.
and ready to go. But that was really nice, and that I feel like that was a good. Yeah, it took a little bit longer, but it was well worth it, and kind of help us feel fresh and ready to take on another week of dry camping. But that's been now dump stations. We are learning that there are a number of rest areas. Mylena just did a Google search.
Yes, on rest areas with dump stations, and there is a Department of Transportation website, and I'll try and put the address in the description. But there is one of those, you look by state and it tells you where the rest areas are with dump stations.
And kind of what caught our attention as the day we started our trip, the morning we started our trip, our first stop was at the Louisiana state line. And we were getting our picnic ready and saw that there was a free dump station there, and there was a line. It was a Sunday afternoon. There was a line of people waiting for that free dump station. So we started thinking, And so we have taken advantage of that in Alabama.
Yes.
And then, like I said, when we got over to the Smokies, but a lot of the larger truck stops are going to have dump stations, and those are going to be with a fee, and you'll see there
somewhere between probably $5 and $10.
Another option that we considered was finding a state park or a Corps of Engineer park, or we didn't even think about an RV resort, but those kinds of places, checking and see how much would it cost us to come in.
And it's probably going to be the entrance fee.
To come in and empty our tanks. If you get desperate and you need somewhere, that would be another option. But we haven't really had an issue with
No.
finding water. Like I said, if you can't find a convenient place to connect to your freshwater tank, these would come in handy. We have a thing in the back of the truck that holds 8 gallons, and so you do that a couple of times and your freshwater tank is getting close, over half full. And so one other thing that we've done
Sharon,
a lot of people don't, just recycle, but to recycle and reuse.
Sharon makes ice to start us off.
On a
And
trip.
So we have ice to start the trip, but usually we've ended up buying 2 or 3 bags to carry us through. And this is our longest trip, and bags of ice at Walmart aren't that much, but
We weren't any place, we were on the
Yeah.
Natchez Trace, and so we were miles from any kind of a town or place. Our campground was a long distance from anywhere we could buy ice.
so Sharon had the idea of taking these water bottles, cutting the tops off, rinsing them out, and then filling them with water,
Fill it about
Yeah.
here so it has room to expand.
and then putting them in the freezer to make ice. The ice lasts a long time. I had some last night, and there was still a good part of it in my cup this morning. And the water bottle, you're still recycling because you have to kind of cut it apart and peel it around to get it off the ice, but then you recycle.
Right, so we're recycling the water bottle, we're just reusing it before we do that.
Yes.
And if it's a day like we're going to be traveling the next, before we do
Yes.
this, we put them on the shelf on the door of the freezer, and
They stand.
And they stand
we're
and-
good.
so we did buy 1 bag of ice before we started really to supplement. We didn't realize how much we were going to be using those water bottles, so that's been awesome.
I don't think we're going to need to buy another. We drink a lot of water, and
We
so
drink-
I don't think we're going to need to buy another bag of ice.
And so it's just a kind of a little tip that we've gotten there. And with power, with electricity, I feel like have a pretty good combination with our solar and with our generator. Like we said, there was one point where we went, I think 3 days without turning the generator on at all, just using our solar. We were in a place where we were getting a lot of pretty direct sun.
We've had some cloudy days and some rainy days.
Between the generator and the solar, we have gotten by.
Yes.
We've not wanted for anything.
Right.
And something else that's been kind of cool, is anytime we're driving between places, we turn the inverter on and we put all of our electronics on to charge, because we know that that panel on top is going to be topping off that. We're going to be probably in pretty direct sunlight as we're driving. And so when we arrive somewhere, all of our electronics are fully charged. And so that probably sounds very intuitive for anyone who's used solar, but for us that was a revelation of, hey, this is cool. We get there and we're topped off and ready to go. Okay, another thing we needed to mention when we were talking about power, and that is propane. You have a lot of options. One place that you can get propane refilled often will be at those larger truck stops, and it is convenient if you're already there. You can also have your tanks refilled there. Another thing that is convenient is if you're at a Walmart or Walgreens or convenience store where they have propane exchange. If you have the smaller bottles, you can simply exchange those and be on the road again. If you are at larger campgrounds, a lot of times those are going to have places that you can have your tanks refilled. But something I had noticed at home is that the Tractor Supply refills tanks. And so we needed our tank refilled, and as we were driving along, we happened to see a Tractor Supply. We were on a smaller road and went in, and the going rate that we had seen at Walmart, places like that for the tanks, some of them were around 17, some were closer to 20. We had our tank refilled at a Tractor Supply for $10.52. And so that is another option, finding those places that will refill it for you. So anyway, this has just been, we did a video about our first trip boondocking, and we watched a lot of other people do videos on their first trip because we want to see what are the mistakes that these people are making.
And we managed to make a few of them.
We did. And so just an update if you haven't seen anything else, if you watched our first one, what we ultimately found out about the problem with what blew the 200 amp fuse with our lithium battery, it was the microwave that was placed in here. And the guy that had done the stuff for me, once we did a lot of troubleshooting, we knew it was that microwave. He contacted the company. They said, it is a pure sine wave inverter. It does run with microwaves. And so my microwave at home was on a countertop, and so I carried it down, plugged it in to the inverter, and it ran it just fine. So we went and bought a Hamilton Beach microwave that would fit that spot, and we've been able to microwave using our solar. And so just wanted to kind of, for those of you who watched our first trip boondocking and were curious about that, that was it. That was the solution. And Mylena, I think, is now using the one that came out of here because her microwave just died. So,
right.
Anyway, we have learned a lot. We've got, like I said, it's 2 weeks of dry camping, and
looking forward to doing more.
Yeah, and this is, in our opinion, the way to see the national parks is a lot of them you're going to have to do some dry camping if you really want to get out there and enjoy those. And so that was the purpose in getting the smaller trailer and getting the solar and the generator, and now we're getting to enjoy it.
Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.